let's say the protocol, let's say it is your monitoring visit 5, okay, and at your monitoring visit 4, they were using the old version. And since then, there's been a protocol amendment.
Okay.
So all the sites received the new amendment. So what do you do now that it's your next visit and there's been a brand new protocol amendment?
And we have new people, new subjects.
Yep. So this triggers a lot of things. What are some of them?
Number 1.
What would you check? Couple things.
The staff, have they all read and understood it?
Okay, yeah. And where is that documented? What log is that? Regulatory binder, but what log?
Staff training?
Yep.
Very good.
Training log.
Training log.
Okay, so training log. Alright. You need to make sure that that's been filled out. Every time this amended. And it happens like 4 or 5 times a study.
Really?
On average, yeah. So that's answers your question a little more. How do you know what to do? Well, every situation's different, but if you know that there's been an amendment, that's one of the first things I would do. Right? Because if they didn't do this, if the staff wasn't trained, what do you do? And that's the interview question too.
So what you would do? Okay. So you check to make sure everybody has been trained.
Right, but if they haven't, what do you do?
Then, well, I guess I would say that you would train them yourself, right?
Yep,
Yes.
correct. So for a training log, the CRA is actually allowed to do that. Or you can leave it as an action item on your report.
That these people need to be trained?
Yes. Because what if on the 1572, okay, there's a whole bunch of investigators, sub-ICE, and they're not all there the day that you're there. So let's say there's 8 people you need to train, but there's only 3 are available.
Okay. So you would write then that on this day,
CRA observed there was no training log for the most recent amendment. CRA could not train as not all staff members were present. CRA left action item for site to complete training prior to next monitoring visit.
So how specific do you have to get? I mean, if there's like 8, you train 12, but there's still 4 left to be trained.
To the individual.
So you would actually put names?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you would scan the log.
Okay.
Take a scan of it.
Okay.
There's also usually an amendment would trigger, because they're changing the protocol, so it usually would trigger an informed consent amendment. So now it's another thing you gotta look. All 10 subjects should have re-signed the newest informed consent. And if they didn't,
Reflect the new.
Then you have to.
what do you do?
Then,
And it's always an interview question. If that didn't happen, what do you do? They always ask that.
because you're not going to have them in there, so I guess I would make the, in my report, say that X amount of subjects need to.
Not X amount, specific
Well, yeah,
ones.
but I'm just saying,
Yeah. But what else though? Because this is a serious issue.
It is, yeah.
So it's not just an action item, it's also deviation.
Okay.
And it's possibly,
One that could shut you down, couldn't it?
yeah, and it also would probably warrant a training.
They were what? I can't say where you're.
Training.
So can you be asked to come back and do the training as an extra trip back? If they ask you to do that, is that something you would?
They sometimes do, but usually it's for the site to retrain staff. It's the PI's responsibility.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody wants to turn around and go back again.
No.
I wouldn't anyway.
No, and there's another thing. So this is, let's say all 10 subjects didn't sign the new consent form. That should have. That's a repetitive action. It's not enough to just retrain. How do you make sure this doesn't happen again? Okay, and that's a CAPA plan. CAPA corrective action, preventative action.
Okay.
Okay, so that's, the site needs to do that. But the CRA can instruct them to develop a CAPA. When you probably, for that, you would probably discuss with your line manager. Okay, what else?
So I have another question, sorry.
Yeah,
So, if there wasn't training, okay, so we train X amount, then we detail in our report that these 5 people need to be trained, but I don't come back now for 4 more weeks.
mm-hmm.
Do I have any obligation that I need to be checking to see if these 5 people?
Yeah. Somebody usually does. So that's part of the monitoring plan.
Mm-hmm.
It could either be you, the CRA, or it could be the lead CRA that's in charge.
Because I'm not gonna wait for 4 more weeks to see
Right.
that it got done. right?
Or someone like the in-house CRA. Depends on the organization, how they're structured and who's responsible for those kind of things.
So I could call back to say, how's it going, or not? Is that-
Depends on the organization.
Okay,
Sometimes that's the CRA's responsibility to follow up, other times it's the lead,
okay,
other times that goes to the in-house CRA to follow up.
okay.
It really depends on whoever you're working for, their SOPs, but usually there's a structure.
Okay,
You know, like maybe for IKEVIA, it was the in-house CRA would do that.
We'll do that.
I don't know. I'm not sure,
I
but
did that too. I did that
Yeah.
for a site that was about to be audited. I had to do, go through the CAPA.
You did the CAPA?
Yeah, I did all that.
So is the CAPA like a form or what?
The corrective action plan. So they've been deviating, maybe they've been deviating from the protocol. You've been seeing a lot of action plan. You know that they're going to get audited. They'll send you there to go and make sure they clean up
So
all
you
their
do a
work.
plan, like you write a plan, like
Yeah.
plan,
Yeah,
and
what
then
are you
you
gonna do?
decide.
okay, decide to do it.
Mhm.
Not the CRA.
Okay, not this
The
year.
only thing the
So you
CRA
want
writes
to
is
see the
the report and their maybe the training log.
Okay.
That's the only thing the CRA will ever write
Mm.
for a site visit. The report is number 1, also the follow-up letter, and maybe a training log. Okay, but that's not the CRA's responsibility to develop the CAPA plan. That's the
Okay, you
PI.
have to, okay.
That's the PI.
So, but you have to see it, sorry. Who has to make sure that it's done?
Could be
Anybody.
anybody.
Anybody, okay.
Could be. It depends. Sometimes it's the CRA. Sometimes it's the in-house CRA. Depends on the type of organization
Mhm.
and what the operating structure is of that CRO or sponsor. But somebody has to do it.
Somebody has to do that.
Yeah.
Well, question. What would, I know this one, just asking. What would constitute a protocol violation?
It's a deviation, right? So anything that goes against the protocol.
But it's a deviation like lower than a violation? Because sometimes when you write, it's a protocol, this is a protocol deviation, contact IRB. But which ones are like protocol violations? That's kind of like...
I've heard of GCP violation. I've heard of protocol violation. The only difference I can think of from a deviation and a violation is that a violation was intentional. And a deviation can, missing ICF is a
Yeah,
deviation,
okay.
right? But it's not intentional. But a violation could be intentional, but it could be for like a safety reason,
Safety, yeah. Okay.
right?
So
But it's still a deviation.
if you came for this visit, you could call it a deviation, correct?
Oh yeah, it has to be.
But I'm just saying, can somebody else do that prior to you getting there?
Yeah, if the site discovered that they did it themselves, they could have already reported. That's a good question. So what does this actually mean? What does a deviation, like, how do we know it's a deviation? Who gets the report? What happens? Protocol deviation form.
Well, wouldn't
There's a deviation
the
form.
IR guy, would
IRB.
they know that?
Yeah,
Know the
they don't know anything.
reviewer?
IRB doesn't know
IRB.
anything. They only know what they're given.
Uh-huh.
They don't know. If they don't receive a form, they don't know anything.
So is there not like a person that's like there checking this all and making
No,
sure
that's
everything?
you, the CRA.
Really?
There's no, these people at the IRB are not doing anything. They're responding to forms they get faxed. If a CRA doesn't tell a site to fax a form or email a form to the IRB, doesn't get done. Unless the site's doing it without being told, which is rare,
It is rare.
because oftentimes they're not
CRC doesn't
aware.
have any responsibility to kind of be looking this stuff over too?
Yeah, but the deviations happen all the time. And they don't usually know they did a deviation. IRBs do nothing. They get these things, so you would instruct the site, send a deviation form to the sponsor and to the IRB if necessary. When is it necessary to the IRB? It always goes to the sponsor. Okay, it always goes on the deviation log. When is it necessary to send the deviation form to the IRB as well? What is the IRB in charge of?
Subject safety.
That's right. So when would,
What'd you say?
Subject safety.
what's the main objective of IRB? Safety of subjects, that's it. They don't care if the drug works or it doesn't work. They don't have any
They just don't
interest in
kill
that.
anybody, yeah.
That's right. So when does a deviation form get sent? It always gets sent to a sponsor. It always is logged on the deviation log. But when does it go to the IRB?
I suppose if something serious happened to one of the subjects.
So, missing an ICF? Is it serious?
Well, it could be if we killed him and they didn't say. I mean, you know,
It's serious,
seriously.
that's very serious.
So
It's
anything,
fundamental.
it's anything that involves patient safety,
Safety, yeah.
Okay.
which includes a missed informed consent.
Yeah,
Very, very serious.
very, very.
Would it include a missed vital sign? Yes.
Yes.
Really?
It's a deviation. Yeah.
It's deviation that affects patient safety.
Safety.
Okay.
That could affect patient safety,
What
I
if
should
it
say.
was,
Yeah.
I forgot to get your body weight? That would,
Yeah?
really?
Blood pressure.
Wow.
What if because this is experimental. So what if
Yeah.
rapid weight loss or rapid weight gain could trigger something else
Yeah.
that they don't know? This is a study. Anything that could affect patient safety gets sent to the IRB too. These are all possible interview questions.
Okay.
And research
Good to know.
assistants do this stuff too. Like Kobe does, if a monitor says, hey, fill out a training log, like everything I just put here, Kobe would do, maybe just not a CAPA plan.
Okay.
Kobe's our research assistant.
Okay.
The young
Still
guy.
here? No.
No. Oh, okay.
So if I got this job, that would be like maybe something.
Oh, for
I
sure
had to-
that would be what you would do. And for oncology, there'd be a lot of IRB reported things. You also report SAEs to IRB.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's very important.
Serious adverse events. In oncology, you get a lot of these. So those go to the sponsor and the IRB. You know what's the process for SAE? Let's say a SAE happens at a site. What is the site supposed to do within 24 hours of knowing about it?
The PI.
Yeah,
To report to the PI.
yeah, but what do the PI need to do?
The hospital or hospital.
Sure, yeah, let's say they got it stabilized, but now it's time to report everything.
Yeah.
So what does the site need to do? There's two things.
Do you have to go to the FDA by that point or not?
No,
No.
No.
Oh.
Okay. Only after it's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
so two things, right? The initial SAE report. Initial SAE report within 24 hours of knowing about it. This is the site. All this is the site. You as the CRA are just checking that this actually happened. And then there's the follow-up SAE report. When it's resolved. Okay? these reports go to the sponsor.
I'm just getting ready to ask you who got those.
Yeah. Well, there's only 2 people that could get it, or that could care about it. It doesn't change.
Yep.
And IRB, yeah.
It's pretty much, this industry just follows themes. You just have to think, sponsor receives everything.
Yep.
Okay. IRBs if it pertains to patient safety. Like a missed dose would be something that would affect patient safety. That would be IRB. If it's a deviation, it would be reportable to the IRB. I'm trying to think of something that would not be reportable to the IRB.
A change in address.
No, that would be, but that's regulatory. That's on the regulatory side. Yeah, we'll get into that too. Regulatory. I think if, let's say a patient is out of window for a visit, I think that's still reported to the IRB.
Yeah.
Trying to think what kind of deviations are not IRB reportable. Very few. It's usually the default is both of those, right? And you as the CRA, you're making sure all this is happening. So if you go to a site and there's been a SAE, and you're the CRA, and you don't write in your report anything about initial or follow-up reports, you know, they're gonna say, well, why did you go?
Yeah.
I mean, why did you go? Because that's the main area of focus for you at that point. And sometimes you'll be aware that SAEs occurred, and sometimes you won't.
Yes.
Sometimes you'll see something as an adverse event that really should have been a serious adverse event, but the site never reported it. And you get to read through all the lines and see that, hey, this is actually a SAE.
He was hospitalized.
And so then you would
Yeah.
you put down your report.
Yeah, you would put site site erroneously wrote this AE as a non-serious AE, but its CRA believes it's a SAE. Sponsor to follow up, and usually they'll tell
And
you.
go to the IRB again, right?
Yeah, go through all that. Because then that would get kicked up to here, and that would get kicked on over there. And that would probably require Kappa, because you have to retrain and train. Because now you're questioning whether the site understands what a SAE is.
Okay.
Right, so it could get very messy, and every situation is different. But the amendment can also trigger changes in procedures, right? Or the order of the procedures, which could change the actual source doc template. Okay. For example, if a new assessment is, or the order of the assessments have been changed because of an amendment, the site can no longer use their previous source documents. They have to, because the previous source documents, let's say they added an ECG at visit 2, and the previous visit 2 didn't require ECG. Well, if the site's using the old source docs, they wouldn't know to do the ECG. So you gotta check that the source has been updated to reflect the amendment. So that's another thing.
This one you think you might have it kind of figured out?
Yeah, you never really do. And a lot of it is interpretation also. Like the exceptions rather than the rules is really what they focus on in the interviews too. Like for you guys, you'll see the exceptions instead of the rules, because everyone knows the rules, but it's like, what do you do in unique situations? That is why they pay you guys what they're going to pay you. As an RA, they expect you to know a little less than this, but it's still, you should know this process. I'm trying to think what the other thing was for protocol amendment. You get training, informed consent, procedures, source docs, ICF, yeah, I think that's good. That's pretty much what triggers an amendment. Now, you said about regulatory. So what did you guys find in the report about that? Delegation, DOA.
Delegation of authority.
DOA log. What's
Delegation
another,
what?
what's another name for it? Delegation of duties log. Same thing, right? Just different names based on what the sponsor.
Delegation of duty or delegation of authority?
Yeah, same thing. Whenever you hear delegation log, that's what I call it. Delegation log.
Delegation of
But they can use either acronym, right?
So one of the things, I mean, this is petty, I'm sure, probably, but one of the things I remember talking about in the last couple of days has been that you have a signature sheet because you need to know who those initials belong to.
Yeah,
I haven't seen one of those.
yeah, it's in the
It's,
delegation log.
It's here, delegation.
Oh, in that one?
Okay. Yeah.
That's right on cue. So yeah, you have this log with all the staff members. Now,
Because we have that in the lab too.
if someone's on the delegation log, do they have to be on the 1572? Interview question.
Say it again.
If someone's on the delegation log, do they have to be on the 1572?
I would think.
Is that what you're looking at?
No, I'm looking for the delegation log so I can show you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there.
It's
Because I
here.
don't.
I saw it. It's here.
So the answer is no,
It's
okay?
They
The
don't have to.
1572.
It means which is
The 1572 is the most important form, right?
yeah.
For regulatory. It's basically the PI's contract with the FDA, and it has different boxes. It's front and back, and there's a third page now. Box 6 has the sub-investigators,
So bad.
okay? And lately, they've been wanting coordinators on there as well.
Mhm.
Do you put a medical assistant on there,
No.
or a research assistant?
No.
But does a research assistant go on delegation of the duties log?
Oh, it seemed like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you need to know whoever's marking.
So then not everyone who's on here needs to be on here. But vice versa, it's true. Everyone on the 1572 needs to be on the delegation log. But not vice versa, okay? And what's the purpose of the delegation log?
Well, the log would be that you would know when you're looking at something and there's initials on it, you want to know who actually did that.
Yep.
And who does what? And if they said they want to qualify.
Right, and what's all those numbers next to their names? On the delegation log. Usually there's the name, there's like a position, signature, initials, start date, stop date, and bunch of numbers. Right there.
Where are the numbers? Because like all these numbers.
Yeah, and it's just one page. So what do these numbers actually mean? This guy has about 20.
That's probably the
have to show
area
you what-
that it states what that is. Like,
Their
Say their
duties.
yeah,
duties.
that's what I'm saying, like number, I wouldn't say it very well, but yeah.
These are the numbers.
Yeah.
Look at what they mean. The
Yeah,
duties.
yeah, there they are.
Yeah, so it's easy at a glance
Mm-hmm.
for you to know who does what.
So what if you notice, as a CRA,
So,
that one of the staff members did an assessment, but then you looked and they don't have that number on their name? What
say
happens?
it again. One number is what?
Let's say you're looking at a source document
Oh,
and somebody did an assessment
it's
and
not part of his duty.
yeah. Yeah, and they're not, that duty's not on the,
It invalidates that dog.
or was just an oversight, right? So how would you know? You would have to talk to the PI
Yeah.
and say, hey, I noticed this person did this assessment, but when I look on the delegation log, I don't see that as there. Did you forget to put that on there, or
Okay,
did they
okay.
do this and they're not supposed to?
True.
Now, depend on their answer, right? But sometimes even their answer won't suffice. Like if they say, Dan can do physical exam,
Mm.
and you as the monitor say, well, he actually can't because he's not a physician.
True, yeah.
And the PA says, no, he can because I said he can.
Mm.
Right? So you have to know how to deal with those situations.
Mm.
Basically, it's if they're legally authorized to perform those tasks is another one. It's not just that the PI says they should
You
do
said,
it.
yeah, they must.
It's are they qualified?
Right, yeah.
And if you ever have issues, questions about that, you need to ask the sponsor. Okay. I had a case where I had a sub-investigator who was a physician assistant, and he was doing physical exams. And the CRA told him he can't do those, because in California, PA is not allowed to do physical exam. And he printed out the entire law for physician assistants,
Wow.
and brought it to her and showed her that yes, he can.
Wow.
And so then she said, okay, it looks like you can. But those kind of issues,
Yeah.
okay? More often than not, they just forgot to put that number down.
So that would be an action item that
It
you
would be
would have to
action
be
items.
correct.
Correct.
Yes.
And if it's confusing or if it's still not clear as to whether that person is allowed to do what the PI wants them to do, that would be an action item for the sponsor. CRA listed this as action item for sponsor to determine whether this individual can perform this.
Excuse me. Oh, she's gone.
Excuse me. What?
Water. Thirsty. There's no bottled water.
Water.
We can take a break. Let's
some water,
let's
just
hit
a-
pause on that.
So I have a question.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, supposing on the delegation log, a staff is fired or
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So what happens?
so what
Excellent.
happens
That's
on the delegation log?
That's a question for you guys. What happens?
Excellent question.
I didn't hear the question.
That's an interview question. Let's say a staff member is no longer working there. What should you see on the delegation log? How would anyone know that that person's no longer there?
Well, you would replace the person, right?
Right, but how would the CRA know what the site's doing in those regards? They don't. The CRA doesn't work there. They wouldn't know who this person is to begin with. They wouldn't notice if they're gone.
Put a line across.
So you'd be,
No. End
End date.
date.
Okay, and wow.
See, start of tasks, end of
Okay,
tasks.
end of task.
Oh, so that's something you look at every
Fantastic.
time you
Yes,
Or start date and end date.
yes.
But sites rarely fill this out, the
Yes.
end date. So sometimes you won't know that a staff member is no longer there. So you can ask, is this person still here? Or what's another way to check if somebody really should be there or have an end date? If you don't see someone doing something for a number of visits, then you can ask, is this person still here? And then the site can tell you either yes, they are, they just haven't been doing, we've had someone else doing those things, or no, they're not. And then you would say, oh, well, you didn't put an end date.
And then another way is sometimes when you might not know, like you said, you might not know who the staff is, but when they do trainings, and then you find out that, this, when you look at the original log, you see maybe there were like 7 or 8 staff, and then now they're doing training, only 4 people. So what happened to the 3? Oh, they're gone. Well, you didn't put an end date.
Yes.
Right.
To the training.
And then how do you get name of new staff onto the list?
Well, that's
Should be
also
done.
good. So what happens when there's a new staff member at the site? What should the site do?
add them to
New
the
staff.
delegation list.
There's a couple things, right? Couple things you as a CRA should care about.
Okay.
Number 1, you got it right, delegation log. What else?
Signature initial block.
Yeah, that's delegation log.
That's the delegation.
Okay.
What else? We talked about it earlier,
Very important.
maybe 10 minutes ago.
Alright.
20 minutes ago.
Delegation of duty?
Yeah, that's delegation log. We got that one.
Yep.
Okay, that's
What's
to the log.
Hint, it starts with a T.
Training.
Yeah, she does.
I would like to
Training
say
log.
the training log too.
You guys have to
Because-
learn these themes.
Mhm.
Everything revolves around the same stuff,
Mhm.
no matter how complicated it gets. Training log. What else? There's more stuff. And you gotta collect copies of all these as a CRA. There's more. I always put more than I can remember and then I leave one blank. I don't know. Might only be 5.
Let's see what I'm doing.
New staff, they need to be trained, have to be on the delegation log.
How do you know their qualifications?
Education log.
I'm surprised they don't have that.
Really?
Oh, no.
So how do you know who you are in research?
I don't know, like my ASCP or your MBA. Yeah.
So a CV,
Mhm.
start with that.
Mhm.
A license if applicable.
License.
Mhm.
What else? You guys need
License what?
You guys need
Licenses.
Okay,
license. Like if it's RN, they need their license. If it's a doctor, they need their license. What about if it's somebody processing labs? What do they need? You guys have this training.
We do?
Yeah? You guys have 2 of these things that are missing. Let's go 5 and 6.
You know?
Yeah, it's on your
Do you
CV.
know?
No, yeah, CV, but it's on your CV. These next 2 things is written on your CV. One has to do with labs. Okay. Shipping hazardous goods.
Oh, GP participate training.
That's IATA.
Oh, that's all
Now, this is only for people who are processing labs.
Mhm.
Okay. GCP, good clinical practice.
Yes.
Alright?
GCP.
That should be number 1,
Yeah.
but this needs to be kept current every year or 2 years, depending on site SOPs. Okay. Speaking of site SOP, was this person trained on the SOP? SOP training.
Standard operational practices.
Training. New staff. One more thing. Not all of them, but some need to be added. There's actually 2 more things. Some need to be added to what form? The PI's contract with the FDA. What is that called?
1572.
Yes. So some of these new staff may need to be added to box 6. And then everyone who's on box 6 needs to sign a what form? It has to do with money.
I'm seeing it.
Yeah, not the is
I'll
it
put the
W? It's not
acronym.
W2. Is it FDF?
FDF, what is that? What's FDF?
I don't
I
know.
can guess, but it wouldn't be.
I don't know.
Has to do with money.
Federal
Nope. Financial
disclosure
disclosure
form.
form.
I thought that was only for the politicians.
Politicians or anyone in box 6 of
Oh.
1572.
Oh well.
Oh, good.
That's I think what you need to check for with a new staff member.
So sorry, the financial disclosure, that's not for everybody, it's like for the like the
For
sub-eyes
everyone. Yeah, everyone on box 6.
on boxes, like sub-eyes and...
Yeah. Not everyone on delegation log though.
Okay,
But if you're on box 6,
you
you need to
must.
sign one of those.
Okay.
Why is it important?
Because you're disclosing whether you own financial interest in the company.
Okay.
And you can manipulate the results of the study to financially
Financially
benefit,
benefit, oh, wow.
which happens.
Stuff happens.
Well, you just take it out.
It doesn't mean they're not allowed to
1572
work on the study, but they have to disclose.
Close, yeah.
This is not 1572.
That's not
This is
1572.
the
Oh, that's
delegation.
yeah.
Let's look at
Delegation Log.
1572. Because you guys took this class over a year ago,
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
probably forgot a lot of this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's good you
I
came.
remember, that's it.
that's it over there.
It's good you came.
Yep.
Our students that just graduated, they have all this fresh in their mind.
Fresh in their minds.
That's 1572. You've seen it.
That's it, absolutely.
Well,
Originally it looks, it's like a brown form.
Is it box 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, box 6
'Cause
has
I'm
all the
just
sub-items.
trying to figure out what,
So these two
What
were signed
criteria?
FDF.
Correct.
yeah, because I'm just wondering, like, what is the criteria for you to be on a 1572 versus a research assistant like
yeah.
I might get?
It's basically anyone that's a sub-investigator, and nowadays it's coordinators also.
So now they're requiring coordinators to be
Yeah,
there?
they're
Wow.
requiring coordinators more often now
Wow.
on there.
So it's like peons, we would, if I, like a
Like a
research
RA?
assistant.
Probably not an RA. Unless you're doing an assessment that a sub-I does,
Yeah,
then you're a RA and a sub-I.
hopefully I won't do
Now,
that forever.
let's say there's a new staff member added, right?
Mhm.
Do you just write their name on this form? There's already a 1572 at the site, it's been signed and dated.
That's my question.
Can you just, let's say I join this study now. I'm say, oh, okay, Carla, you're the site manager. I'm just gonna write my name here, okay? Is that alright?
No.
I wouldn't think so.
Why? Because
It's
of
over
that,
days, yeah, the day.
right? So each time someone's added or removed to that thing, you have to generate a new one.
The new one.
And the
Okay.
PI has to re-sign it. So you'll have many versions
I'm gonna
throughout
say
the
so
course of the
many,
study.
yeah.
We have at
And the
least
new one does not validate the old one. The old one has to still remain.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Paper trail.
but the new one goes on top.
On top, okay.
So there should be like an audit trail
All
of
the trail.
all the 1572s.
Yeah.
Same thing when a sub-I leaves and you remove them from a box. You generate another 1572.
But that's generated for each person, that's gonna be on the 1572,
Each time there's someone added.
okay?
Yeah, but only the PI signs it.
So, where on there does it, so that would list who's on there?
Yeah, let's see. This is the PI. Here, take it out so you can see this. It's been a while since the last time.
Yeah.
Page 3 is not really important, it's just
Okay.
the labs they use. But in my opinion, the 1572 is the most important form for regulatory
Yes.
because it's the one the FDA has on file. Could be 200 people too.
Yeah.
Like
So
in a
then-
university,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
200's a lot, but like 50?
Mhm.
I've seen 50.
Wow, that's a lot.
Okay,
And guess what? As a CRA monitoring a site with 50 sub-Is,
You will monitor that.
you have to check for
Yes. Okay.
50 different things
wow,
for 50 people.
that's why some take 5 days.
Yes,
and some take
exactly.
A day.
With 3
So-
monitors.
And that's why monitoring universities is tough. And now they switch to e-regulatory,
Oh, yeah.
which kind of makes it easier, but because you just log on to something like Intralinks and you see everything there. Like that entire thing would be in an electronic format. So you can see delegation log, it's electronic, right? And it's easier in theory for the site to make changes and then electronically sign it.
Yeah.
But it's still, you have to check for all this stuff.
Check.
So, say that I did join the study, so I have another paper with my name on it.
Yeah,
And so I joined on week 6, but then it's gonna be week 48.
but they don't
Is
count.
there ever an updated one, or it always just stays like the original 10, and then 2 more have been added on? There's 2 more papers, but is it ever put into one?
No,
Okay.
no.
So So the original stays the
Yeah.
original, and you just have the add-ons, okay.
Yeah,
Yep, all right.
it's like an audit trail,
Mm-hmm,
you know, because that's time stamped
yeah,
with a date on it. So, and if it's e-signed, it's to the minute time stamped.
yeah. Okay.
This is just to the date.
Alright.
So that's what's challenging about monitoring and even about maintaining these things. Because there's regulatory startup and then there's regulatory maintenance. Alright, so what's in the regulatory startup? Regulatory startup. Because what you just described, what you just asked me is regulatory maintenance. Right, but to create that initial 1572, that's the startup. So what are some of the most important regulatory startup documents? After site selection visit. Okay, let's say the site's been awarded the study, but they haven't had their initiation visit yet. I just said which one is number one.
1572.
1572. And then it will automatically, you already know that everyone who signed that needs to sign this. Or sorry, everyone who's on box 6 needs to sign this.
When is the CDA signed? Is it before?
Yeah, CDA signed before, like when the site's doing the feasibility survey, before they're actually even selected. Then you want GCP, CV, license. Okay, but there's some important things in regulatory startup as well. Oh, and protocol amendment on that board I erased. One of the things I forgot was a protocol signature page. Okay, so every time a new protocol is sent out, the PI has to sign a new protocol signature page that it documents that they received it and read it. So that'd be that's the one thing I forgot on the last word. Protocol signature page. And that is also here. That's why I remembered. Protocol sig page. Okay. And if you have this, you have the protocol too. So these are interchangeable, right? But another one, investigator brochure. Signature page. And the brochure. What is the investigator brochure? IP. What's that?
Brochure, signature.
Yeah, investigator brochure. Is that?
Is that about the product?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The IP.
Everything that's known about the IP.
Yeah.
All the safety profile. You know when you go to the pharmacy and you get a medication?
Yeah.
Those papers that come inside it is the investigator brochure.
Yeah.
Except in research, it's like this thick. And that's why we keep a separate binder for just the IB. I don't know if it's in here. It's a separate binder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because it's about as big as half of this. Just the investigator brochure, which no one reads. But it's a PI has to sign it that they received it, and it's filed. Okay. So GCP, CVs, licenses. You don't do training log yet for study startup. Oh, there is one more important thing for startup. How do we know that the IRB approved the site to screen? It's called IRB approval.
Imagine that.
Go figure. What a strange name.
And that is decided by, that's when you go for your site visit, right?
No. Very important distinction. Again, the IRB could care less. Okay, all they care about is patient safety. The sponsor does a site selection visit. If they award the site, Chris went to one of those today. If they award the site the study, within the next couple of weeks, they're given a regulatory startup package and told to do all this stuff. One of those things is get IRB approval.
Okay.
Okay. So whoever the IRB is, the site needs to download the IRB
portal.
Yeah, it's the IRB initial submission form. They're all,
Okay.
every IRB calls it something else. But it's basically an application for approval, alright? And you can Google a bunch of IRBs and find their various form. And Intralinks, which you all still have access to, you never will lose access to the Intralinks, by the way. So if you need to brush up on an interview, you can just go in there and watch. Your password probably expired, but you have to create a new one.
Okay.
Just click forgot password.
Does it just any, when you just Google, I mean, we're not looking for an intralinks specific to, I mean, isn't there just, because I was doing this the other day, but I didn't have a password. So.
Yeah, just put forgot password.
So how
Yeah.
do we
And they'll email.
how do we get on the intralinks again?
Via.intralinks.com.
That's,
And just use whatever email you registered with the class. And then click forgot password and they'll email you.
so via.intralinks.com.
You say V or VI?
Via.
VIA.
Via. Dot intralinks. Links LINKS.
Yeah.
Links.com.
Via.intralinks.com.
Okay, so
IRB
there's a lot of
application.
things that I'm not clear on, but I think you have to do it. I mean, you're probably never going to go right into your first one and like feel really comfortable, I'm sure.
As a monitor?
Maybe.
I mean, you check all these things at the SIV, Site Initiation Visit. Alright?
So the site initiation visit though is already, that's been approved as.
No, the site selection visit is the site's already been approved. The
Okay.
site initiation visit is the site ready to start screening.
Okay.
Okay? There's SSV,
Site selection.
site selection. Then there's SIV.
Site initiation, initial.
And then there's what you guys did today, IMV. Then there's closeout visit, COV.
What's IMV again?
Okay.
Which is what you guys, yeah, interim monitoring visit.
And out of all of these, the CTA goes, Is part of it.
CRA?
yeah, CRA,
Or,
I'm sorry.
yeah, CRA.
CRA, mhm.
Yeah. It may not be the same CRA that does the SSV. Sometimes they have their own CRAs that do just those.
Okay,
But then the site's monitor will be doing all these things.
okay.
SIV. At SIV, the site is not allowed to screen yet until all these things, it's called activation. The
Okay.
site is not activated until all these things are taken care of. And also all the vendor, IWRS access, drug is on site, source documents are prepared properly, lab kits are there. You're checking for all that stuff. The SIV report is different than this one. I mean, it looks the same, but the stuff they ask is different.
Okay.
And it's a lot of regulatory. And then at SIV, the CRA does training log. Trains everybody on the protocol.
I mean, it's a lot like the lab. I mean,
It is
everybody
the
that
same thing.
works there, you have to have their education, you have to have their licenses,
Yeah, the CAP or whatever they call those
Yep.
certificates. Yeah,
CAP,
CAP.
gold standard.
We use those here too. We need to get the caps for the central lab we use.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So IRB application site completes it, sends it to the IRB. IRB approves it. Usually, what the IRB is looking for is, does the PI have sufficient time to do this? Experience? Who are his staff? And what measures are they taking for patient safety? It's pretty
Because they
much-
don't want anything to do with it. I mean, they want it to go smoothly, obviously.
Yeah, they're just looking out for patient safety.
Mhm.
That's regulatory startup. Now regulatory maintenance is all this other stuff. At SIV, the first regulatory maintenance thing is the Delegation of Authorities Log. Okay? So if you're a monitor and you're doing SIV, You make sure you did the training log, because you're kicking off the training. And you make sure the site's completing their delegation of duties log with you there, you watching them do it. Because if you don't do that, they're not going to do it. In addition to all those stuff I mentioned earlier, lab kits, drug, IWRS access, EDC access, okay, EDC training. Site won't get access to EDC unless they complete a training through that vendor, so that's usually not as important, but still you want to make sure they have EDC access. And then IMV is all the regulatory maintenance. Who left from the site, who's still there, what SAEs occurred, what deviations have occurred, what amendments happened. That's regulatory maintenance. Okay, new staff, amendments, deviations, safety. That's regulatory maintenance. Regulatory startup, pretty easy. Regulatory maintenance could get complicated because you're putting in things like SAEs. And then you're following up on SAE reports. And then SUSAR reports.
SUSAR?
SUSAR. What's SUSAR?
I remember about what it was for.
SUSAR. What's the difference between that and an SAE?
Serious.
If you can understand this difference, you mastered that aspect of research.
Serious unexpected.
Suspected, unexpected,
Unexpected, yeah.
serious adverse reaction. Is every SAE a SUSAR? Is every SAE a SUSAR?
No.
Good. Is every SUSAR an SAE?
Suspected. Oh. No.
Unexpected?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So,
Just because something's an SAE doesn't mean it's suspected to be related to the drug. That's determined by the PI. There's actually on that SAE initial and follow-up form, there's a causality column, which would indicate is it suspected to the IP or not.
Okay.
And then there's a severity. So the causality, did the study drug cause this SAE? If it's yes, it makes the SUSAR report, and that SUSAR is sent to all the sites participating in the study. And those SUSARs need to get filed in the reg binder and signed and dated by the PI. So if there was an SAE in Kansas that made the SUSAR list for a study I'm doing here, the sponsor generates the SUSAR report, sends it to all the sites. I receive one here, I open it, and I say, oh, this person in Kansas fainted. It's a SUSAR. So now I could look for my patients here. If they're having those kind of symptoms, I know it's possibly related to the study drug. So it's safety, right? So that's the regulatory maintenance as well.
So what did we say? So every SUSAR is an SAE?
Yes. But not
Not
every
every
SAE is a SUSAR. Like I can choke on a chicken bone and go to the hospital if I'm in a study. That's a SAE. It's unrelated to the study drug, so it's not going to make the SUSAR.
Okay, makes sense.
But now if it's suspected that the IP caused my throat to swell up and that's why I choked, then I would, right? But only the PI can make that determination, and the medical monitor too. So that's, if you can master this difference, you are a pro at safety, at least, from a regulatory perspective. So regulatory startup, you're good?
Yes.
Go back, review the modules. When's your interview?
Mine's Wednesday.
Yeah, review it. Review the video modules and the webinars, as many as you can.
Yeah, well, my everything still.
Yeah, just review them all. Go back to Intralinks and watch as many as you can. There's a 2-hour thing just on regulatory. And then there's 2 of them, 2-hour ones narrated by Chris on Source.
Okay.
And then I narrate all these visits. Like there's a module for each of these.
It's nice to have a.
And now they make
voice.
sense than
Yeah.
before. Because before they were just like vague, but now if you go back,
Oh
it
yeah.
makes more
It
sense.
does.
you know.
That's why I say it's worth it to come here, even
Indeed.
though
Yes, it is.
But I'm just glad that, well, I'm a believer that everything happens in the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
But-
time.
You know, if I'd have come last year, I still would not have probably had the guts to quit my job to do that, to do this. But since I quit my job and went to North Carolina and then came back because it wasn't for us, then I just
No, it's
kept
not.
nudging in the back of my head,
Hurricane is not for anybody.
now this is the time to go to research, you know? So yeah, so now having a job, I'll be able to cram here pretty good on XP
yeah.
when I get home. Yeah, because I can't say, well, I would suppose or I would guess.
No, you've
No.
got to go through
Oh, yeah.
those modules again.
Yep.
Weeks 1 through 8.
Mhm.
Don't worry about the scenarios. Those you know that. But weeks 1 through 8,
Mhm.
and then all the webinar replays from 1 through 8 also.
Okay.
All of that. It's only an hour per module on average, so that's only 8 hours, and then an hour for each webinar, so 16 hours just to binge watch all of it prior to your interviews. One of the students who got hired recently listened to it in the car like constantly, and she
Yeah.
did really well. And she never even came here.
She never knew that.
Well,
She just studied this stuff constantly in the car, at the gym. It's
I knew it
constantly.
had been too long since I took the class that I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to.
You guys all took it like over a year ago,
Yeah.
so it's like if you don't practice.
Yeah.
Because I've asked myself so many times, really.
Well, I'm
when I was
surprised
sitting
you
there
guys know
last-
as much as you do with over a year break.
Because I asked myself, I don't know how many times.
You still
why
know
did
some
I take
stuff.
that
Well, now you
class?
know more.
Yeah, now we know more.
So it's all going to come together now.
Hopefully. Tomorrow we're gonna do a screening, I hope.
Okay.
Have you had anyone been tell you what they asked them when they were interviewed for CRC position?
There's so many things they can ask. It's like it's tough to. No interviews are the same. All they ask is like situational things. Like
If you had, yeah.
yeah, what do you do when a new staff member joins the study? Well, you better say at least 3 of these. You guys only said like 1, 2. Now you can say 9.
I'll have to write it on my hand and go, well.
It's just a review, repetition.
Yeah.
So are we going to get this video at least?
Yeah,
Thank you.
it'll go on YouTube and.